Together with my daughter Rachel, I'm embarking on a cruise entitled Classical Greece. Our starting point is the historic, scenic, and magical city of Dubrovnik in Croatia. We only have a few hours to explore. We were here a week ago, but this time we want to ride to the mountain top and take in the exquisite panorama. We circumambulate the city walls to the cable car. The walls were first built in the 7th century, and these walls here today are from the 14th and 15th centuries. This is going to be good. The round trip cost 120 Croatian kuna per person, less than $20. The cable car was restored to its present pristine condition in 2010. We certainly have a beautiful day today. The Mediterranean is famous for its great climate, and today is no exception. Up we go. The ancient city stretching out before us. What a view! 5 minutes later, we arrive at the top. The views are stunning. No drone with us today, but from up here we can still look down on the ancient city, in many ways unchanged for centuries. Great place for a selfie. Hey, what do you think to this place?
Marvellous. Haven't been here since 1977. We just drove past it. Now we're actually going down to see it.
The walls of the city clearly visible below as we get a bird's eye view. What a place. It was fun just to take in the views, enjoy the nice breeze, watch all the things happening around us, and look down and realize we need more time here to see everything.
We've just taken a cable car up to the top to look down over the city of Dubrovnik, and it's absolutely amazing. You can see the colours of the ocean and all of the rooftops. Windy.
We spent 45 minutes at the top. There are things up there to explore, but we wanted to stroll through the city again, so down we go. Dubrovnik comes in for some criticism for being overcrowded. It's one of the most visited tourist destinations in the Mediterranean. And though the average daily numbers are only slightly over 3,000, there are days when as many as 10,000 flood the city. In such a small walled city, that's extreme. The walls that remain were built to defend against Ottoman attacks, but have been called upon to protect on many occasions, even in recent times. We entered the city through the northern gate and began to explore. As we'd been here the week before, we were content to simply stroll around the city and soak in the atmosphere, though we did regret later that we'd not walked along the tops of the walls of the city, a viewpoint that gives a different perspective on the place. The narrow alleyways, a hallmark of the city. Some episodes of Game of Thrones were filmed here, and this is clearly evident. There are plenty of great places to eat. The historic setting makes it special. It did remind me of the ancient city of Medina in Malta, though the joy of that experience was that we were the only people there. Dubrovnik is vibrant and qualifies as one of my wow places for sure. The pace is certainly faster here. Scenes from the movies, easily recognizable. What's the big deal? Walking through history. Most of the buildings here date back centuries. Unlike many historic cities, there's no department stores here, no KFC, no McDonald's, but many places serving good food and many great shops. The harbour is always a great place to stroll around, and one gets to see interesting aspects of life here. It's certainly the place for a memory photo. In fact, if you're into photography, this is a super photogenic location. The hills providing a backdrop. And while I do my thing, Rachel does her thing. Great fun. Even a memory pick. Great visit.
So we are about to embark on part 2 of our cruise, entitled Classic Greece. After a day at sea, we will be arriving in Corinth.
It's quite usual on a cruise to spend the first day at sea. Most people have travelled a long way to reach the ship and already had a look around the port of departure. So it gives us all a chance to explore the ship and relax a little. See what facilities are available: internet rooms, library, board games, coffee with a view. Naturally, being in the Mediterranean, we want to enjoy the sunshine, and I have to say I always enjoy the days at sea. A chance to relax and chat. Walk around the ship, even take a swim. Rachel was wondering where I am. The answer is shooting as usual. Blue skies and a pleasant temperature are the hallmarks of the Med. We're taking it easy and planning shooting our next destination, Corinth, and reading up on it. relaxing on a sunbed, watching the world go by.
This is technically day 2, and we are a day at sea. We have beautiful weather. The sun is really strong, a little bit of a breeze, but not much. And we're just sitting outside in the outside restaurant on the deck, having a bit of a dip in the pool, and just basically taking a break because the following week is going to be pretty hectic. Our first port of call is going to be Corinth, and from there we will be moving on to other areas in Greece and Montenegro.
I have to say we're really looking forward to visiting Corinth and the Corinth Canal, and then the amazing itinerary of Itea, Olympia, Corfu, and the town of Kotor in Montenegro. Anticipation. Just arrived in Corinth. There are many well-known places in Greece, and today we were faced with a tough choice. We had one day here and had to choose between Athens or Corinth. We ultimately chose Corinth, though the clincher was that it included a trip down the Corinth Canal, both ways.
We're in the ancient city of Corinth where the Apostle Paul came to preach.
2 books of the Bible are written to the church in Corinth by the Apostle Paul, who visited here 3 times. This is actually the site of ancient Corinth, occupied from before 3000 BC, but most historical sources date back to the early 8th century BC, when Corinth began to develop as a commercial center. This hill has seen much happen in the last few thousand years. In places like this, I'm always trying to imagine what was going on a couple of thousand years ago. People selling their produce. Perhaps a traveler buying pita bread. This is the Temple of Apollo, built on a hill that was the highest part of the city. When excavations began here, the columns of the Temple of Apollo were all that were visible. Having said that, it was built in 540 BC upon an earlier foundation that's even older, 2,500 years old and still standing. Many of the ancient ruins here date back at least 2,000 years. In times past, however, this has been an unfortunate place to live, having suffered 2 major earthquakes and a great fire. We can gaze on well-preserved ruins and remind ourselves that the Apostle Paul no doubt walked down this road and preached under the iconic Acrocorinth mountain that overlooks the old city, and which was at one time the location of the notorious Temple of Aphrodite. They would have used drachma, silver coin of ancient Greece, dating from about the mid-6th century BC, that was one of the world's earliest coins. Its name derives from the Greek verb meaning to grasp, and its original value was the equivalent of that of a handful of arrows. So if this is an important Christian site, we might ask, is there any mention of it in the Bible? Well, this is the Bema, a raised platform where officials gave public addresses, erected around 44 BC, and to which the Jews brought Paul for judgment by Gallio, the proconsul of Achaia. Biblical history was enacted right here. Corinth is described in the Bible as an evil city where all kinds of debauchery existed, and certainly the temple of Aphrodite, with 1,000 ceremonial prostitutes, bears this out. Desiring to change this, the apostle stayed here and preached for 18 months, staying with his friends Aquila and Priscilla, who had fled from Rome when the Emperor Claudius expelled all the Jews from the city in 49 AD. Rachel was on camera too today, so we got great shots. One very interesting fact is that not only did Paul write 2 letters to the Corinthians, but he also wrote some letters from Corinth during his time here, notably to the Romans and probably the Thessalonians. Not only is biblical history here, the fountain of Pyrene, a spring in Greek mythology, is located here and was said to be a favored watering hole of Pegasus, the mythical winged horse, the child of Poseidon. The legend about Pyrene is that she was a woman who became a spring because of her tears shed in lamentation for her son Cancreus, who was unintentionally killed by Artemis. Poets would travel here to drink the water and receive inspiration. There's a museum here, the Archaeological Museum of Ancient Corinth, that contained many exhibits found here. Though I was intrigued that outside they had headless statues, and inside bodiless heads. Our final visit here was to the nearby Roman Odeum. An Odeum is a Roman theatre. The one here was constructed in the 1st century AD and is estimated to have held an audience of 3,000 spectators for cultural performances of music and rhetoric. But now it's time to take a trip down the Corinth Canal. The trip from the ruins of ancient Corinth to the Isthmia, the entrance of the Corinth Canal, takes about 20 minutes. We're about to take a catamaran ride all the way through the canal and back. We'll then go to a shopping area nearby where we can get some views down onto the canal and do a little shopping. Here comes the boat. This is gonna be fun. Rachel is already enjoying herself.
We're on the canal.
The Corinth Canal.
Correct.
We have good seats, and we await the okay from the control tower. Here we go. Corinth is actually a great place to visit, as we get to see the ancient ruins, take a canal trip, and finally get to explore the city all in one day. The tour included a running commentary describing, explaining, and pointing out the relevant features. It is without doubt a scenic ride. We're actually traveling from east to west first. There are a number of ways to cross over the canal. The first we encounter is a submersible bridge, which actually lowers below the water to allow boats to go over. There are two of these, one at each end of the canal. The banks at each end are not so high, and a bridge over the water would be a major undertaking. Further along, the banks are very high, and 4 road bridges, 2 railway bridges, and a footbridge also span the canal. Ever since I was a kid, I heard of the legendary Corinth Canal, conceived by Roman emperors such as Caligula, Julius Caesar, and Nero. The philosopher Apollonius prophesied that anyone who tried to dig a Corinthian canal would fall ill. In fact, all 3 Roman rulers who considered the idea died before their time. Julius Caesar considered it, but was assassinated before he could even begin. Caligula, the 3rd Roman emperor, commissioned a study in 40 AD from the Egyptian experts who claimed, incorrectly, that the Corinthian Gulf was higher than the Saronic Gulf, but he was assassinated. Then finally Nero died after laying the foundation stone. Toward the end of the canal is a memorial of the attempt, a relief of Hercules carved into the bank by Nero's workers that still remains today. Nero was the first to try to construct the canal, personally breaking ground with a pick in 67 AD, but work stopped as soon as he died. The builders dug the canal at sea level, so no locks were built. It's 6.4 kilometers in length, that's 4 miles, and only 21.3 meters or 70 feet wide at its base. I wonder what's up there. Bungee jumping. And what goes up must come down. And up. And down. And up. And down. I have to say, when I first saw this, I thought somebody had fallen off the bridge. Construction started in 1881, but was delayed by all kinds of problems, and it was finally completed in 1893. Because it's quite narrow, modern ships cannot pass through, so it's now mainly used for tourist boats. A shopping mall was next on the agenda, from where we certainly had a different perspective of the canal.
We are now on the bridge, looking over the Corinth Canal.
From this viewpoint, one can get some idea of the scale of the undertaking. This is without doubt a wow shot, showing a fantastic feat of engineering. Meanwhile, the show goes on. From there, back to the ship to get ready for a stroll around the city. We're not finished yet. We've seen ancient Corinth and the legendary Corinth Canal, Now we get the opportunity to stroll around the city, take in the sights, meet the people, and enjoy the Mediterranean weather. It's indeed a delightful city, and there's much here that signals its ancient heritage. It's actually only 78 kilometers, 48 miles from Athens. The most prominent building is the Greek Orthodox Cathedral of St. Paul, situated right in the heart of the city. After a brief look around, Rachel wanted to head to the beach. Yes, you heard right, the beach. There's a beach here. She wanted to eat a traditional Greek snack overlooking the waves. And that's just what we did.
We finally made it to the beach.
There's something about just sitting watching the waves that appeals to both of us. This was a beautiful, quiet spot. The restaurant right on the edge of the sea, and Rachel made a memory. A great view and great food. Pork, chicken, kebab, bread and chips. Rachel loves the sea, but the best she got to do was to paddle in it. It's not a sandy beach, more like a shell beach. Then a stroll through the city. How should I describe it? Colorful, perfect weather, warm but a gentle breeze, no crowds. Interesting. The church is all beautiful, plenty of greenery. It was just great fun to walk around. Exploring a little. It's a super clean place, and the center of the city very beautiful, not even a hint of heavy traffic. Citrus fruit all over the place. Scenic tree-lined boulevards. We then came across one of the world's most famous statues, Aphrodite de Milos, mistakenly known as Venus de Milo, a copy of the one in the Louvre in Paris that bears a canny resemblance to Rachel, the original being the work of Alexandros of Antioch. The difference being the statue is harmless, Rachel is dangerous. Next stop, Mio Gusto Coffee, my flavor.
George.
Great place, and most important, great coffee. George was special.
George, you say this year in January it's snow?
Yes.
One more time.
So sorry.
Okay, one more time. So what's the weather like in winter?
It was snowing. Yes, and the last time that snow here was before 11-12 years ago.
12 years
yes.
ago. Wow. So it rests on the ground?
Yes.
How deep? Half an
About
inch?
half a meter.
Half a meter?
Yes. Was,
Heavy snow?
Yes.
Whoa.
It was a lot.
Yeah, so that in 11 years, only one time?
Yes.
George gave us a Greek lesson.
Is ne.
Ne.
No is off
Oshi.
Sounds sound bad, you know.
Oshi.
Oshi.
It's
Yeah.
different. For you.
Oshi. I'll just never be able to say no.
Yeah.
Hello is...
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, the G is like a Y. Yeah.
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 Yeah, George. Yeah. Canena problema. No problem. George was definitely the best part of the visit. The coffee was great. The seafront promenade, beautiful. Pegasus dancing among the fountains.
There are a lot of concrete buildings that have been abandoned, I guess, because of structural issues, because of the really bad earthquake in 1981.
It's an earthquake zone that makes life difficult for them. The 1981 earthquake did extensive damage, and 34 people were hospitalized for injuries here. That's our ship in the harbor. I have to say how much we loved the place, the people, the beautiful city. Really enjoyable. The marina, home to pleasure boats as well as fishing boats. Looking back, I'm amazed at how few people were there. It was a really quiet interlude. A great place to stroll around and relax. Then we strolled back to the ship. It feels like we've been here for a week. We managed to do so much in so little time. Our next port of call is the enchanting town of Itea, actually only 50 miles up the coast to the west. Next day we arrived in Itea, Greece. But disaster struck. The sun disappeared. We'd had sunshine every day, so it was almost a shock. So we set out to have an easy, relaxing day with our friend Sue. Itea is a pretty little town. It's actually very close to the ancient city of Delphi. But we decided to take it easy. On reflection, I know we should have visited Delphi, but we'd had such a busy day in Corinth the day before, we just took it easy. It was good to relax a little. A walk down the promenade was interesting, as there was such a diversity of flora. Some I've never seen before. It's a characteristic of many Greek towns to have citrus trees in the streets. I expect lemons are not available in the supermarkets here. They're available in the streets. As we walked up the seashore, we noticed many cafes along the way. Though the sunshine had deserted us, it was nevertheless a warm, pleasant day. We soon found a coffee shop and ordered iced coffee that was excellent. as was the view. Rachel took the opportunity to write a few postcards. Pictures of here on a sunny day.
Okay. In you go.
And then they go. Let's hope they make it there.
Then we took a stroll along the coast. Our ship actually anchored in the bay. And we had taken the tender into the shore today. Not only lemons growing in the street, oranges too, or are they mandarins? We were taking pictures of lemons in the garden of a home when the occupant came out and offered us a bag of lemons. Not only that, she wouldn't accept any money for them, simply smiled and said, "God bless you." Very kind.
We just passed a residential area, and there was a lady who was living there. She came out and all of these lemon trees, and she said, hold on, and she gave us over a dozen lemons.
Yeah.
Her name was Maria. Seems she traveled a bit as well. It was lovely.
Thank you, Maria. I was very surprised to see snow on the mountains. It's Mount Pyramida, an altitude of 8,235 feet. Not only oranges, lemons and limes growing in the street, but olives also. I've never seen it before.
We're walking along some of the back streets, the residential local areas, and orange trees are lining the road. As you can see, there are just oranges on the ground.
They should have a marmalade factory here. Let's stop an ice cream.
What's the ice cream like?
It's very good. I had a double scoop of Oreo and Ferrero Rocher. Very good.
As we made our way back to the ship, the sky darkened. Clearly rain on the way. As we sailed out of Itea, it actually came on to rain. Not a very interesting or eventful day, but certainly relaxing. That night, we actually went under a bridge. The Anti-Rion Bridge is 2,880 meters long and is suspended over the Gulf of Corinth. There can't be many bridges in the world that cruise ships can sail under. I'd have loved to sail under it in the daytime. Tomorrow we visit Katakolon and visit Olympia, the home of the Olympic Games. We arrived this morning in Katakolon, and guess what? The sun has returned. Katakolon is a beautiful little tourist town with plenty of shops, cafes and restaurants, and we spent an hour or so walking around and exploring as the train to Olympia didn't leave until noon. The small railway station is a 2-minute walk from the town and harbour. So we bought tickets and had a chat with the train drivers, who were very friendly and informative. We're in Katakolon, on the train and about to go up to Olympia, the ancient city of Olympia, where the Olympic Games began. I managed to sit right behind the drivers so that I could get some good shots.
Being on a train is far better than taking a taxi. You can see so much more. It's air conditioned.
It cost €10 return for a 45-minute trip into Olympia, and excellent value for money. The entry fee in Olympia is €12, so we can do the whole trip for €44 for 2 people. I asked Rachel if she enjoyed the town of Katakolon.
It was brilliant. The colours of the buildings, the outside cafes where you could sit and look over the harbour with the boats and the sailboats, the cruise ships, and then there were shops and little houses further inland. It was beautiful.
There were only a few people on the train, and it was a pleasant ride. Soon we were arriving in Olympia.
Well, after about 45 minutes of a train ride, we finally reached Olympia. The walk to the ancient city is just maybe 5 minutes, I think.
Time to explore. And the present-day town of Olympia is interesting, but certainly touristy, which is actually fun. And we enjoyed the leisurely stroll down Main Street. Rachel had written more postcards. But I wish I had more time here. So this is where the Olympics began. It wasn't just a stadium, it was a city. The gymnasium, Greek baths, palestra, the temples, the city buildings. Today we have the remnants, the ruins, the stones, the columns, the history. When I'm in England, I get to soak in 1,000-year-old history, but this was here before Christ. The Philippian, dedicated to King Philip, father of Alexander the Great, partially restored. The Temple of Hera, queen of the Greek gods, where the Olympic torch is lit, the oldest temple ruin here, built in approximately 590 BC. In modern times, there are a number of theories as to the age of Olympia, but its history certainly goes back a long way. The first Olympic festival was held here in the 8th century BC, tradition dating the first games at 776 BC. The earliest evidence of buildings here dates back to 600 BC. Finally, we get to see the stadium.
We've just walked through the monumental entrance of the stadium, and behind me you can see where all of the games took place.
The first stadium was constructed around 560 BC and is said to have held 45,000 people. It consisted of just a simple track. The stadium was remodeled around 500 BC with sloping sides for the spectators. The start line still intact. A good imagination required. In 1896, when the Olympics resumed, they were regarded as a great success. The Games had the largest international participation of any sporting event to that date. Winners were given a silver medal, while runners-up received a copper medal. It was indeed a walk through history. Back to the town. And why not a horse and carriage ride?
We've just finished having a quick look around the stadium and some of the other ruins. We have to really get back so that we can grab the train, so that we don't miss the boat.
So another look at the shops. Rachel said this was her shop. She bought drinks for the train.
All stocked up, ready for the train.
The good news on the return trip is that the train drivers were the same as we had for the outbound trip, and they invited me to join them in the cab.
This is wonderful Greece.
Wonderful.
I'm at Olympia. And I'm about to drive the train back to Katakolon.
Drive us back, Lord Paul!
I was able to get some great shots out the front of the train and have a chat with the drivers. Always interesting to be able to do this. We surprised their friend, and they insisted I included him in the video. It was a fun time, and we had a good laugh.
Well, we've made it back, and we're just going to spend an hour just looking around the shops before we have to get on our boat.
Rachel was happy to get a little more time here. We were only 2 minutes away from the ship, so we explored a little, knowing that we wouldn't miss the boat, so to speak. It was indeed an interesting little town, and we enjoyed browsing, shopping, shooting, and simply enjoying the whole experience. The people here were great. Greece has a fantastic atmosphere.
This one is where we just were at.
But we were ready to stroll back to the ship. Drop the postcards in the mailbox on the way.
Well, we're on our way back onto the boat. We've had a really long but fun day, but we're ready to relax now.
What happens next, you might wonder? Well, we go to our cabin, take a shower, dress for dinner, and then go up on deck for the sail away. After that, we head to the dining room, sit by the window, enjoy good views, good food, and good company. What a day. Feels good to be alive. The dream goes on as we arrive in the island of Corfu in Greece. The sun is shining, and at first glimpse, this looks like we're going to have a great time.
Well, we've made it to Corfu town. Right now we're in the new town area. Behind you is the new fort. But we're going to walk around the areas first before heading out to the old fort. I'm going to be sick and tired of forts by the end of this trip.
The first thing to do is to have a good cup of coffee. We're at the Black Cat. They're having Freddo cappuccino.
Welcome, Corfu.
If you come to Corfu, be sure to visit the Black Cat, A great place to get the atmosphere of Corfu.
These are the three wise men. No, the three wise men.
This is the boss?
Yeah.
No, I'm the horse. He's the boss.
As you can see, you'll get a great Greek welcome. And we thoroughly enjoyed the first coffee here and soaked in the atmosphere of Greek hospitality. Then a stroll through the town. Corfu immediately exudes the culture of the Med. The buildings, the ambience, the food, the smells, the music. Rachel was filming too, so we were getting different insights. Narrow pedestrian-only streets, al fresco dining, Mediterranean architecture and amazing shopping. Laces, leathers, clothing, ethnic art and handicrafts. Plus delightful people and fantastic weather. Here come the troubadours. Their music enhancing the whole feel of the place. I'm sure they're not just doing this as a job, they are proudly maintaining the culture, skillfully intensifying the experience for all of us. Big hugs and big thank yous to them. It really is a tourist paradise here. Interesting shops, always a snack or drink available. And it has to be said, a place of beauty, spotlessly clean and well kept. Loved every minute. My travel philosophy is to go somewhere I haven't been and observe cultures I haven't experienced. But I have to say, this is one place I wouldn't mind revisiting. For Rachel, any musician playing in this way is a treat. She loved it. Me too. Even the local priest is shopping. So enjoy the sights with us. It's a beguiling place with a laid-back, old-world feel that is unique. Its architecture is predominantly Venetian, but augmented with French and even English Georgian styles. Clearly influenced by centuries of foreign occupation, but actually unspoiled by modern edifices that mar so many cities. It's a town where we need to keep looking up. There are so many interesting windows and balconies. The street views are amazing. Just imagine having a meal in these surroundings. Special. Then we came across Stelios. Stelios is a very talented musician. The instrument he's playing is the Cretan lyra.
Okay, we've just been listening to Stelios. He's a star from Greece.
We had a nice chat with him, and he gave Rachel a lesson.
Use the fingers, the nails.
The nails, just touching by nail. And there are many strings for resonance under. So it's a kind of natural echo when I play this.
Oh yeah.
Mi resonates, then Fa, then Fa diesis, then Sol.
So you play these three strings, and naturally
She plays violin among other instruments, but this was a real challenge for her.
Wow, with my nail. I suppose you could just.
Bravo, Stelios. Enjoyed our time with you. This is fun. This street reminiscent of Rue de Rivoli in Paris. Rachel is getting great shots. We then entered the square of Leonida Vlachou, one of the most beautiful parks in Corfu, with ancient buildings and greenery. Exquisite architecture. And for me, the whole experience, enhanced by the warm weather, blue skies, and bright sunshine. It's one of those places where one wants to explore what's around the corner. We were not disappointed. Balconies, archways, shuttered windows. It was a pleasant, relaxing walk around. The thing I enjoyed the most was the fact that most of the buildings were in the old style. Tiled roofs, arches, balconies and interesting windows. Enjoy a little walk with us through this Mediterranean paradise. Get a feel of the place, if you will. I'm sure you'll want to visit. For your information, it's the 13th of June, 2017. And what can I see? The old Venetian fortress that looks like a great place to visit. Time to explore the old fort. It's the location of a fascinating past. It's been the venue for literally hundreds of battles. with perhaps a variety of competence found nowhere else. It's amazing. Homer writes about it in the Odyssey. The Persians were here, and the Romans, the Goths, Byzantines, Normans, Ottomans, French, Russians, British, Italians, and Germans, and mainly the Venetians. Without doubt, there are few places on earth having such a colourful history. After enjoying the delights of Corfu town, it's time to explore the old fort. The fortress is built upon the headland which in former times housed the old town of Corfu. It gets its western name from the twin peaks of this fortress. An old map depicts it. It's certainly a formidable structure, separated from the mainland by a moat, the Contrafossa, dug by the Venetians. The entrance is an elaborate archway. The earliest fortifications of the promontory date back to the 6th century, when the Ostrogoths roamed the Med. The Venetian cannon, however, are later additions, aimed at stopping the Ottoman Turks, if you see what I mean. And Corfu is famous for the fact that it was not colonized by the Turks like so many other Mediterranean territories. We plan to climb to the top through numerous archways and tunnels, walking through history, so to speak. Getting superb views along the way, and nice gardens too. A lighthouse now stands at the summit, and I'm anticipating spectacular vistas. At the top, among the cacti, are superb views in every direction. Millionaires' yachts in the bay. This fort was the location of a number of scenes in the James Bond film For Your Eyes Only. A clear view over the town below. Up here it feels we're on top of the world, looking down on creation. Our ship in the distance. The town below marked by the absence of the aura of modernity. The cool azure, augmented by the occasional white yacht on the Ionian Sea and the sailing boats in the marina. The presence of the past, intensified by the ruins of yesteryear. As we gaze at the amazing view, we're reminded of Corfu's past. It was two disciples of the Apostle Paul who brought Christianity here. Napoleon conquered it. Suleiman the Magnificent failed to conquer it. And Prince Philip, a great-great-grandson of Queen Victoria, was born here. Having said all that, it's clearly Greek, known in Greece as the Castle City, but with a hint of Venice. After the exertions of the climb, it's time for a drink and an opportunity for Rachel to write her postcards as we enjoy a beautiful view. Then it's time to return to the ship, past the World War II memorial. We'll actually walk through a beautiful part of the town. The gardens and old buildings, delightful to behold, and adding great charm to the place. Our walk back takes us along the coast, people enjoying the beach and reminding us that this island has other facets that we were unable to explore. Another time, maybe, though I can tell you Rachel would love to be down there. She looked down in envy, though her dastardly dad just wanted to shoot everything in sight, killing her opportunity to bathe in the Ionian Sea. Now there's a memory. Interesting buildings along the way. No sooner had we embarked that we were sailing away. So what's the verdict? Have the charms of this ancient Greek island gently massaged your senses? Perhaps tickled your fancy? Or even propelled your zest for life? It's with great pleasure that we sit and wave our farewells, having explored, taken in, observed, and enjoyed this unique island. In a few minutes we shall take showers and dress for dinner, then sit in the window of the dining room and watch the world pass by, chatting about our experiences of the day, the amazing people, the musicians, the sights, the history, and yes, even the shopping. It's been a wonderful day, and as Socrates said, wisdom begins in wonder. Today has been such that I've not even touched my phone all day, let alone looked at it. Such was the power of the day. Oh, for more days like that. A great part of who we are consists of where we've been and what we've experienced. So Rachel and I were enriched today, and as we sail away, we both have that good to be alive feeling. And certainly thankful for an amazing day. We woke up next morning to experience sailing through the Bay of Kotor, Montenegro. We'd sailed up the Adriatic from Corfu and entered this delightful bay, one of the most indented parts of the Adriatic Sea, that has great views on all sides. Because of its narrow parts and its similarity to the fjords of Norway, it's been described as the southernmost fjord in Europe. But geographically, it's actually a ria, that is, a submerged river canyon, that is surrounded by overhanging limestone cliffs and hills, making it an impressive landscape. It was indeed a joy to sail through, and attracted many of the passengers to come up on deck and enjoy the moment. And what an experience it was! The calm sea, beautiful sunshine, and rolling limestone hills and cliffs. Occasionally an island. This one, Our Lady of the Rocks. According to legend, the artificial islet was made over the centuries by local seamen who kept an ancient oath that upon returning from a successful voyage, they would place a rock in the bay. Next to it, St. George's Island and Monastery. The proximity to the shore enabling us to clearly see towns and villages as we sail past. It's about 9 o'clock in the morning. We finished breakfast and came up on deck, having been able to enjoy these views from the dining room as we ate. We're all eagerly anticipating our visit to Kotor, as we've been informed that this would be the highlight of the whole cruise. I have to say that as we passed numerous towns and villages, I was impressed by the beauty of the place. Combined with the Mediterranean climate, it must be a great place to live. "200 years ago, Lord Byron commented that the Montenegrin coastline really is the most beautiful encounter between land and sea. It hasn't changed much. The joy that we have is that we may stand 10 stories high and look down on it all. A bird's eye view, yes. A fly on the wall, maybe. The occupants of these villages, perhaps unaware that 1,000 pairs of eyes are observing. The problem with taking a cruise is that in every port we visit, a minimum of one cruise ship has arrived, if you see what I mean. I want to visit places where there are no tourists, but that's oxymoronic. Let me rephrase. I want to visit places where there's only one tourist. Make that 2, then Rachel can come. We soon reached our destination, the ancient city of Kotor, being more built up than other towns we passed. Population over 13,000. It's one of the best preserved medieval towns in the Adriatic and is a UNESCO World Heritage Site. Time to explore. We're literally right next to the city when we disembark. So we strolled up to the city gate. Well, one of them. The name Kotor is said to mean 10 gates, so I presume there are others. Our first glimpse fills us with anticipation, and there's more to come. The old Mediterranean port of Kotor has become a popular tourist destination, surrounded by fortifications built during the Venetian period. It's located on the Bay of Kotor, a place well visited by seagoing vessels, not least the Mediterranean cruise ships. It's indeed a delightful destination. On arriving, we were filled with expectancy, and the weather was perfect, as usual. It's easy to see why it is part of a World Heritage Site, named the Natural and Cultural Historical Region of Kotor. As we entered the main gate, Rachel suddenly set off like an Olympic athlete out of the blocks. What's the attraction? She heard the sound of music and the sight of dancing, and she was filming before I realized she was missing. And no wonder, a Montenegrin folk dancing group were performing, and what a sight it was! In national costume, with national music and national dancing. What a start to the visit. Excellent performance that immediately gave us a taste of Montenegrin culture. The dancers were both skilled and beautiful. Air conditioning in dry climates consists of a fine water spray. It's noon and quite hot. We had a drink and a chat with friends off the ship, whilst enjoying the town square. Rachel insisted we should both compliment and thank the dancers. The dance troupe was called the Durkovic. What a great way to start the day! The town is beautiful. History all around. Mountains above. The location of the town clearly strategic, surrounded by mountains, extremely photogenic. The stone walls encompassing the town. A walk to the fortress at the top, a popular trek for visitors that gives great views. Laid-back atmosphere, cafes, shops, and surrounded by historical buildings on all sides. One of the joys of Kotor is the narrow shopping alleys and streets. Not to mention the delightful people. Had a chat with Tali. Kotor reminded me a little of the alleys of Marrakesh, old and interesting, and reminding Rachel of me, though I disagreed. I'm not that interesting. Definitely Rachel's kind of place. She was loving it. Every now and then the alleys would lead to interesting squares. The mountains towering overhead, and quaint alfresco cafes and Mediterranean stone buildings below. One with cannon outside. Wherever we look in Kotor, there are interesting things to see. Look up and there's a church halfway up the mountain. Archways reveal medieval churches. Even the alleyways appear to get a regal touch. And not only is there an abundance of shops, some are fascinating. And hotels right in the heart of the city. Some of the alleys barely wide enough for two people to pass. And clearly, some of the cannon have been relocated. Someone actually told me there are 10 churches here. Street musicians, always a joy. I said to Rachel, keep looking up and we'll get great shots. The mountains even peek over the rooftops. It's definitely a pedestrian zone. A marvelous place to explore, and it never disappoints. Rachel actually bought a souvenir.
Ready, steady, go.
The Serbian Orthodox Church of St. Nicholas. Niko is Greek for conquer, so if your name is Nicholas or Nicole, you're a conqueror. That's what the Nike brand means. You want to be a conqueror, just do it, and maybe keep doing it. We strolled all the way through the town and came out on the other side as a local friend was taking us for a local lunch. Montenegrin food. This is where the river flows out to the sea. The restaurant is just outside these walls, giving great views of the actual wall. But it's time to eat. This is really a wonderful time in Kotor. As we walked around, we met a friend who wanted to take us to eat at a typical local restaurant, Bastion 3. Montenegrin food, salad called shupska. A very nice place. Rachel really enjoyed it.
So this is the restaurant we are here now.
So this is a chicken and it's folded over. Inside is cheese, mushrooms, and a special type of ham. It's smoked. And
See this cheese?
whoa!
It's melt already.
Oh, melting.
That is all. That's so cool. So right now, we've just finished a really good local meal in a beautiful restaurant where there are grapevines overhead, working really well as a nice shade from the really strong sun. But we've had chicken and had beef and lovely buttered cheese spreads on bread. And now we're finishing everything off with a lovely cup of local Turkish coffee.
I enjoyed this typical Montenegro food. It's very tasty and it's very similar to cuisine from the place where I come from, and it is Croatian.
We have a nice meal and now we have some great Turkish coffee, and we are spending our time very grateful and enjoyable, I think.
It was indeed an experience. Believe it or not, the time we spent eating meant we had no time to walk to the top of the hill. Rachel thought that was a good thing. I rued missing the views from the top. So back into the city for a final walk around. The World Heritage Site is called Venetian Works of Defense between the 15th and 17th centuries and contains ramparts, towers, citadels, a castle, the formidable walls, and ancient gates. Venice certainly had great power at that time. Kotor has a great reputation for being a first-class tourist venue, and after our brief sojourn here, I was left with an appetite for more. Next time, I definitely want to climb to the top and take a boat that takes visitors to Our Lady of the Rocks Island. I'd also like time to sit and soak in the atmosphere. A cruise provides us with opportunities to see many places, but seldom affords us the time to explore very much.
We had a really relaxing afternoon and followed, no doubt, by a very frenetic next couple of hours.
Actually, one of the good things about Kotor is that the ship gets to dock right next to the city. When we disembark, we're right outside the gates. It's 4 o'clock and the ship sails at 6. So indeed we have 2 more hours, but we only have a 5-minute walk back. As we look over the city wall, there's the sea. Looking inside the wall, it's beautiful. Old Venice never too far away. Even the Lion of Venice prominent. Peace to you, Mark, my evangelist. Our last glimpses summing up this remarkable place. History all around, literally. When I say the ship is only 5 minutes away, literally. I love historic places and the sea and culture and good food. Kotor ticks all the boxes. Even the harbor is pretty. It's about 20 miles to the open sea, so it's calm and serene. I definitely want to return. But the day is not finished. The sail away here involves a 20-mile cruise through the Bay of Kotor. We came in as the sun rose, and we leave with 100 memories as it sets. I have to say that watching Montenegro go by from a cruise ship is an intriguing sight. After a delightful day in Kotor, it's a very satisfying experience to get some final shots as dusk falls. To move, to breathe, to fly, to float. To gain all while you give. To roam the roads of lands remote. To travel is to live. So wrote Hans Christian Andersen as he described the fairy tale of my life. Rachel and I thus live our own fairy tale. I assure you, it's one that would make Hans Christian Andersen envious. To end the day, what better than a 6-course dinner? Our last night, Rachel said, the view from our table, great. Sirocco's restaurant, the food amazing. A lone prawn to start. Escargot next, one of Rachel's favorites. the best table in the joint. And as usual, first-class service. Seafood bisque, tomato and buffalo mozzarella, prawn salad, ribeye steak, done to perfection. Dessert and coffee followed. Our final stop was to say farewell to Uroš and the delightful and talented photography team, though a year later we were reunited. Next morning, our sad departure from Dubrovnik. I have to say that I've traveled the world. I lived in the Caribbean for 2 years. I now live in Hong Kong. I visit India, Europe, Hawaii, and Australia every year. But without doubt, my favorite place on earth is the Med. The climate, the scenery, the history, the people, the food, and the price. Loved every minute. Passing the old city of Dubrovnik down there. Then onto the plane and a novel safety demo.
Your life jacket is located under your seat or beneath your sensor armrest. When instructed, place it over your head. Pass the tapes around your waist.
A fantastic holiday. Did you enjoy traveling with us? We have over 300 travel films on this channel. Come with us and see the world.